fun experiences.
Officially underway for our first recorded policy committee. Thank you so much for printing copies for me. I am old school in that way, as you know.
All right, so do we wanna look at JFCE and IKF first? The other one I thought that we could knock out quick because we don't have to do any real edits to it or many. Unless you've got it deeper in, is the student representative to the board.
Oh, okay.
But that's whatever, if you wanna do that later, we can.
I don't think we need to really do anything to it. You wanna look at what I highlighted? I think it's good as is, and I did not include that one in the packet, it was something that Susan and I talked about. As I was going through for papers,
Yeah.
I found that, and I know that we had talked about it, and I thought maybe it was something we were gonna work on, but then Susan reminded me that. No, we were kind of going back to that original. Yes, process, but it's going through the administration, so I think.
That was that piece of it, but. The application materials are available from the high school office and on the school website. The application deadline and process for selecting a student board member is established each year by the board and published in school communications. Applications for student representative must be submitted by the end of the school day on or before the published deadline in writing to the school office. Applications will be forwarded to the board secretary. Student representative applicant, if deemed eligible to serve, may also participate. I mean, what really has become. I had originally proposed changing the timelines to the fall instead of in the spring, because we've missed it
Yeah.
the last two times, and I think we're okay to leave it in the spring. But what's happening now is the applications are not coming to Michelle. They've gone for the last couple of years to the high school administrators who do the interviews and make the selections, and so it never comes around.
Because the original intent was the board would do the interviews. and
Yeah.
Selection.
Yep, and that's not been happening. The district designee will organize a selection committee consisting of not less than 5 members. And we've just not, I mean, we can maintain that if we choose to, and we don't need to decide on this today, because we're in process right now for this year's. But as we hit the spring, we're probably gonna wanna take a look at that to say, do we want, does the board want to be actively involved in that or not? And be able to take a look at the application selection and timeline and make sure that that passes muster.
I wonder if it might be a good thing to add to our next work session to discuss the process for this coming spring. To make the determination, because I know initially the board wanted to be involved.
Yep,
In the selection, and we did that the first year.
yep,
So we had interviews, I remember we all sat in the library over here and did the interviews. But then. Yeah, the following year we didn't interview.
yeah, the last 2 years.
Yeah,
We didn't, and so it's the question of what do we really want? And what does the process need to be? So
okay,
because we're in process for this year, we'll have a recommendation for our October meeting.
yes.
To have somebody or somebody's for this school year.
Mhm.
Then before we set up the timeline in the spring, it would be good to be able to have that ironed out.
Yeah, so we'll just keep it status quo for right now, and then at our next work session, which will determine when that'll be happening soon, we can, bring that up, okay. All right, I did give you copies of these two. Or Susan did.
So these were two that were kind of out, were they outside the ones that were,
Well, IKF was in the August release.
okay,
And then JFCEB obviously is the. Latest personal electronic devices.
yeah. So IKF. I went through with a fine tooth comb. We were going to approve it last spring. But some of the changes didn't apply to all students. So for instance, there are some requirements that the students of the class of 2025. Or excuse me, 2026 are not required to meet, but classes beyond them are. And so, since I only had the new stuff in here, I needed to make sure I went back and acknowledged that for students in their senior year and some in their junior year would have a different series of requirements.
Okay.
So, I also cleaned up the information surrounding where we have a diploma, we have an honors diploma, we have a valedictory diploma. And I made the language around them match, because they didn't. So when it says, in the diploma one, a high school diploma will be awarded to students in grades 9 through 12 who complete a minimum of 24 credits. The honors diploma had a whole different startup piece of language. And so I wanted to make sure that all of those were consistent across the board. The other thing that is new is that they've taken out the alternative certificate that was a part of the old policy, and now it's really, you can get, apart from the diplomas I just mentioned, you can get a modified diploma, an extended diploma, or a certificate of attendance instead of an alternative certificate. And so all that language is now changed to be able to make sure it matches up with current state requirements. The other thing I did was, if you look at the very last page, I did a chart that looks at really this current year. That's the class of 26, 27, 28, 29, and what their credit requirements are. So that it acknowledges that this year's class has a personalized learning class. Into the future, the personalized learning class they're doing right now through Advisor. The higher education and career path skills has to be an independent class. And so that will be in play for current freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. And so that's why you see the difference there. And then on the valedictorian diploma, only freshmen this year, the new requirement comes into play at district level choice of, oh, I spelled it wrong, of advanced placement, or AAOT classes, which is the community college stuff. The new requirement is that they have to take at least 4 advanced placement or AAOT classes, where the prior requirement is only 2. So,
What drove that change?
excuse me.
What drove that change?
The biggest thing that drove the change was the rigor and, getting to a place where you would have, 14 valedictorians.
Yeah.
And really wanting to make sure that it had a level of distinction.
Were we on that vector to get that many?
The past couple of years, we've had 8 or 9 or 10.
So I'm looking on page 7,
Okay.
on the modified diploma, and it lists 13 credits being required for electives, but on your chart, it says 11.
If you look down at the bottom, where it modified. 14, 15 and 16, personal finance credit applies to a student who are awarded a modified diploma on or after January 1st, 2027. Higher education and career path skills applies. And so what I could do is make sure that for personal finance and higher education and career path skills, that is listed in the requirement, that it applies to students in the class of 2027 and beyond.
But it still says 13 credits for electives here and 11 credits for electives back here.
if I'm a senior. Um,
None of them say 13
Oh.
back here, they all say 20, 11, 11, or 11.
at
But
the,
none of them say
at
13.
the bottom, there's, oh, okay, I see.
And I'm curious why the credit count actually dropped, because the credit count didn't.
Because we added personal finance and, the higher education skills for the class of 2027 and beyond. So instead, it added an extra credit to the requirements, so students need to take 11 electives instead of the 12.
But we already require to have credit for personal finance, didn't we?
We did.
So it shouldn't have changed anything. then.
It changed well, the thing that I have to ask is, I don't know that students on a modified diploma have been taking
Okay,
personal finance.
that makes sense.
That's the question.
I
so
just
yeah.
wanna make sure that our
I can work
chart
on
in
that.
this match.
Yes, so I need to work on this, cause yeah, they don't line up. Okay, I'll fix those.
And now this is just reflective of the fact that. Like it's. I'm trying to see the total credits, 24, okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's my adding errors. This was a beast.
I have a feeling it just happened from here, because 13 have to be this, and
Yeah.
so then I think it was just a typo from
Yep.
there to there.
Yep, I think you're right. I'll fix that though, that's
Cause it would equal 11.
good catch.
When I do math. Never just fine.
Remind me how
It's my Monday math.
how does a credit equate to a class period or a trimester?
Most classes, are a half a credit, so if I take math for, one trimester, I'll get half a credit.
And well, but all the math courses now, or at least most of them are 3 trimesters, so you're getting a credit and a half in a year.
The only ones right now that are 3 trimesters are AP Calculus and, there is a year-long algebra. All the rest of them are 2 trimesters.
And but if they take a year, then they're getting a credit and a half.
Yes.
Okay.
It looks like most of the rest of this is just. Referencing the legal requirement changes.
And I've gone back and forth with this since the end of last week with, Mark Henderson and Garth Giroux about, are we right? And so they've had their eyes on it as well. One of the things I did, so if you look at, for instance, just the standard diploma. Under math, it says must be algebra 1 and above, courses aligned to the adopted algebra, geometry, and data reasoning standards meet this requirement. I plugged that in because that's the state's language, rather than saying you have to take algebra 1, algebra 2, calculus, or, I mean, because. As long as they meet these requirements, then in the handbooks, they can put specific class titles. That would meet that requirement. But it keeps the policy broader. So that we don't have to go in every time there's, an individual course title changes.
I mean, we'll probably have to update this in a year just to
We
get
will.
rid of the one
Yep.
class that it won't apply to anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Or to reflect other changes.
Yeah.
So the essential skills section being struck, is that because that's a change broadly, or because we determined not to include it?
It is broad. The state has made the determination that, and in all of the places you will see that the state board has waived that requirement of essential skills for students graduating through the 27-28 school year. So rather than, especially when it comes to light in terms of, extended or, modified diplomas, it says in the information at the bottom that we can hold off on this until it comes back into a place of reality, at the end of the 2028 school year. And so rather than adding a piece of information that would muddy the waters. The intent is to keep that out until we need to put it back in 2028,
Okay.
so.
Excellent, it's running somewhere, I think.
You've had good years. Yeah, we had some issues last spring with information in a student handbook that said AP classes were 4. And there were some people in the classes that it didn't apply to, that it was just like, what do you mean it's 4? You know, it was 2 last year, and my student's a senior this year. And so how
For which one?
the valedictorian diploma,
Yes.
that we just needed to make sure we were clean on what applied to who.
Personal electronic devices.
And we're gonna go over this tomorrow with the admin team. I've sent it to them and they've had the chance to go through it. It matches pretty close to the OSBA recommendation. And then we took a look at Redmond's, who has plugged some things in that help make it a little bit more specific. One of the things, if you look at the second paragraph, student use of personal electronic devices, it says is prohibited from the start of regular instructions. It was pretty vague, and we added in Redmond's 3 bullets. Students may use devices when they're using district provided transportation during their scheduled route to and from school. Because that was one of the, can they or can't they? Students can use personal electronic devices during extracurricular activities, and I added at the discretion of the coach or advisor, because sometimes for reasons other than this, coaches are gonna say, keep your phone. And then the Florida School District is not responsible for lost or stolen personal electronic devices. It just gave it a little bit more specificity. The argument, one of the arguments will be, but it's real clear in here, is if I'm going on a field trip during the school day, I may not use my personal electronic device because it's instructional time. I put in the policy itself on the second page, exemptions will be considered based on the following criteria. Those had been a part of, or they are a part of the AR, which was the request for an exception. And I've got to make sure my language is right, because it's exception and not exemption, so I'll get clear on that. But wanted to put it in the policy about how we make those kinds of decisions. We've already had at least one request that was met on this morning, and I haven't heard where that landed. Because originally I didn't want to do the AR, I wanted to keep that out in terms of the requests. But I think this gives us a lens for being able to work through if somebody wants that accommodation or excuse me, wants that exception, that it gives us a lens to be able to look through how we make those decisions consistent. So that's why I put that in there.
We do have one set of brackets in here that we might need to answer, and the violation of this policy. May not include suspension or expulsion, but could include, and then there's bracketed language for detention.
It should be if anything, it should be parent.
Okay, that works. You don't do Saturday school, do we?
No. Ugh. Good catch.
Breakfast. That's exactly what I was thinking.
And from what I've heard thus far, we're doing all right, with the exception of a couple of issues. There hasn't been huge hue and cry and,
Yeah, I,
how dare you?
I mean, my sense is kids are gonna get over it pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because it's just a new world order that they're just, and frankly, I think most of them are pretty happy about it, so they
Yeah.
actually get to have real interactions. My guess is it's the parents who are gonna be the problems, and even they'll get over it eventually.
And that's some of it. I did talk to, one of our staff members who, comes to us from the ESD. And she had said, when she's been in, especially the high school, because we figured that was the place that was gonna be the highest
Resistance, yeah.
area of angst, she said, I can tell the energy level of conversation is different. And that's after the first week of school.
Right.
So I was like, okay, that's very good.
It's really too bad it took an act of the governor to make this happen, but.
Well, we were close.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
But-
this district was headed down
Right.
that path already,
But,
which is great,
but yeah, it was,
and it's statewide.
yeah,
But I think, yeah.
yep. And we're working on, listening for, what the issues could be, so.
And I'll just raise again, personal concern that, the IEP and medical exceptions do remove some of a student's privacy. Because if they're seen being allowed to use that, then everyone will know that they have an IEP or a medical.
They know,
Exception.
they should know that they have an exception, not that they have an IEP or a 504. I mean.
Right.
That's kind of the general idea is,
But there are other reasons for exception.
Yeah.
Which hopefully there really aren't. Those are very, very few and far between.
Yeah.
But the average person won't know that.
Yeah. and there's a couple of things that we're, working on to be able to say. We've got a couple of, for instance, Google extensions that help deal with. Some reading and writing issues and concerns.
Okay.
That some people might want to have, text to speech. For some opportunity to be able to help them. This Google extension can do it. And can do it for anyone, regardless, without the need for any kind of exception. Or the use of their own personal electronic device, so it should take some of the stigma away, is the hope. Because anybody can use it.
And then. The inclusion of headphones and earbuds attached to personal electronic devices, that's because headphones and earbuds could be attached to. A Chromebook or something, and that would be fine, so
Yeah.
they're just calling it out separately, okay. Just wanted to check.
So apart from the ones that Michelle had, those were kind of the two that I apologize for not getting them out, but I wanted to work on them and kind of
Yeah.
get them in front of. In front of us to be able to continue the dialogue. Yeah, these are the one work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's mine, I just have it on me.
Well,
Send
and
that to you.
we also know that we might see updates coming out of this from the state. If they
Absolutely.
decide to
We
figure
did-
things out for it.
We did hear from the Department of Education that they are not going to write rules. For this executive order. That was their original thing, was that they were gonna be charged with writing rules. That would apply to this. They have chosen or been told or whatever, that they are not writing rules. Related to this, so it's kind of like. Use the sample policy and go to town and, we'll deal with things as we can. The state does have, and they continue to update this fostering student learning, well-being and belonging. That is about the use of personal electronic devices. They have a Q&A. If there's something that we get as a district that we want to feed to them to say. Have you heard, have we got an example for you? They want those kinds of things to help inform. What their frequently asked questions and things like that, so.
The back of the form, you still have an OSBA. Bracket in there,
Oh,
number one.
Oh, yeah,
thank you.
it looks like we just changed should to will.
Yep. The debate was whether we put that in there or not, and the idea was, yeah, let's put it in there, because we want to approve for legitimate needs. And we don't want to be afraid to say that. Um. Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
Oh, that, yeah.
Yeah,
So is it
Still
still,
one, just strike the
Yeah.
bracket.
just number one says it.
Okay.
So it says that OSBA language, that whole, the.
Yeah, the piece where it
parenthetical.
says OSBA language optional, that can all come in.
okay,
And I finally decided to put in a policy. When you see the asterisks. The single asterisk may be subject to collective bargaining agreement, and the two says parent includes legal guardian or person in parental relationship. It's like, I always look at those and go, what are they even like?
Oh, yeah, cause they're on like the policy landing page.
Yeah,
Of each section.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
Great idea, they include it,
So I just thought-
so it actually makes sense to people.
Why would this one be subject to collective bargaining?
that I don't know.
I think it's around the management of
Discipline?
it, yes, thank you. I was like, words,
Yeah,
the,
To which one?
classroom control and discipline.
that it might be something that needed to be adjusted based on other school districts collective bargaining. I don't think it's an issue with that.
Well, that's what I worry.
Yeah.
Why would we not? I would just take that out. I don't think we want to apply board policy that we would take this,
Oh. Yeah,
right? Don't put that asterisk on this particular,
Just put the double.
yeah,
parenting.
or just make that the single one or whatever.
Yep, okay.
Right? I mean, I'm afraid.
it's
if
a
you put-
double
I-
everywhere, so I use that one.
Oh, okay, I got you, I see.
Yep.
Yeah. Good call.
No, that's fine.
I mean, my concern is you put it in policy, you've implied, not even implied, you've stated, well, you said maybe, so that's fine, I guess. But, let's not put it there until it gets challenged and then,
Right, because we've got a couple other ones in here, and these ones make sense. We talk about family medical leave. Yep, that's,
Yeah.
I get that.
yeah, that's a different story.
Yep. Absolutely.
so we're going to. So you're going over this. With the admin tomorrow?
Yep.
Before it's.
Yep.
Kind of push through, and then this one, you're gonna make a few more tweaks on,
I just have to correct my errors and.
okay,
Yeah,
all right, I'm gonna try to get these in the word back as soon as possible.
okay.
And then moving to the main
We
packet.
should have collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, it's in there, thank you. In fact, I'm gonna try to release some of this tonight.
That's fine.
Since I'm not gonna be here tomorrow.
Yeah, I do that. I still got my stuff to do. Just get it.
Okay, board meeting agenda, probably know why this is a topic. because
Yes.
they're recent. I think you were, wasn't this talked about in the board work session?
Yes, we did talk about it in
The
our
request for a board agenda item.
It's in the semantics. We had somebody last spring that made a request. Because I think it said, if you want something on the board agenda. Contact by less than such a date, and we put it on the agenda. And then this last time, we made a public comment and Karen and I met with these people. Afterwards, which was much more appropriate because it was really about day-to-day operations.
Right.
And so it's really in the understanding of the semantics in that first paragraph when it says. Items of business may be suggested by any board member, staff member, student, or patron of the district. By notifying the superintendent at least 1 week prior to the meeting. The assumption has been that patron has meant. If I am a patron and ask for an agenda item, it automatically goes on the agenda.
Right.
And so,
Yes.
Yeah.
we could have it remain that way. The other piece of the puzzle is if we make a decision to say, it's gonna be public comment. And if it's always gonna be public comment, do we wanna leave the policy the same way?
Did you happen to read my suggestion in the email when I sent out the packet? I really like it. I'm gonna read.
That's why it's your.
Yeah.
Oh, my suggestion is to add something like. The criteria used to consider the request will be whether the subject matter. Falls within the boards, like are the general powers listed. General powers of the board listed in policy BBA, which. Kind of lists what your job is,
Cool.
items regarding the day-to-day business of the district will be directed to the superintendent.
So. I'm not following, I'm sorry, but
Okay.
yeah, That's, we're in the policy,
Oh, I'm sorry.
BDC, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. The first paragraph, second sentence, yeah, items of business may be suggested by any board member, staff member, student, or patron of the district by notifying the superintendent at least 1 week prior to the meeting. Right? May be suggested, but that doesn't guarantee it's gonna make the agenda.
Right.
Yes.
And so why do we need to make any changes? Why, what's wrong
Well,
with this?
is the last,
People not understanding what may.
in that last request. The people who did the public comment, she asked me on the phone, what's the criteria?
Yeah.
For whether or not we get an agenda item, or whether or not our agenda item request is approved, and.
Right.
I didn't really have an answer for her this time.
Well, I mean. Yeah, to me, the answer is, well, yeah, the way I think it should work is. It is the board's meeting, and so it should be the board's agenda. Obviously, that should be significantly influenced by the superintendent, but the board chair is the point of that.
Yep.
And so if someone comes forth and has an item, these two can evaluate and decide whether it makes the agenda, or, you know, it's something significant, big enough. They don't feel there's any need for more debate, we're gonna put it on the agenda, whether it's this coming next meeting or a meeting or two down the road, whatever. If, however, they deem it's not, then the requester, the patron, can come to the board meeting and make public comment. And potentially get the interest of other board members who can at that moment say, we want to add this to today's
Yep.
agenda, and it takes, right, 2 board members, one to move, the other to second to put it on the agenda. Or. The patron could be advised, go meet outside of the board meeting with 1 or 2 or multiple board members. Champion your cause and ask them to bring forth that, right? I think those are the 3 steps, right? They start with, they can make a request to either of these 2, and then they'll determine. That's one option. They can come and make a request that the board look into this, and then if a board member adopts it, great, then it's on a future agenda, or they can try to solicit individual board members. I think those are the protocols. Right?
No, I agree with you. The question was, do we need a 3rd sentence in there that explains it? Or do we leave this as is and the process is outlined in an AR?
I mean, maybe the only other sentence would be, and I know that's, maybe it was under I remember reading this in one of our last 2 meetings, but you know. 2 board members can, you know, whatever, however the wording is, 1 board member can bring forth, and it takes 2 board members to put something on the agenda. That is in some documentation we looked at last. If we just added that sentence, that any 2 board members can request an agenda item. Yeah, I think if you just added that one, you'd cover it. And I don't remember where that was before. Was that in our board operating guidelines? Yes, I think that was what it was, because we looked at that. And so that makes sense, but that is the policy.
So another one that I had looked at when this first came up that. Again, I've mentioned this a few times. I like how Multnomah ESD does a lot of their policies. I think even though they're a larger governing body. I appreciate the clarity in some of their policies that are a little different than ours, but. This says. Very similar to ours, I'll skip the first, they're similar. This says items of business suggested by any board member shall be added to the agenda by submitting the request to the board chair and superintendent. At least 10 working days before the meeting. The reason they do that is just in case a board member needs something to be heard in a meeting, it doesn't have to be seconded. I think that's an interesting.
So there, I'm sorry, I didn't guess where to begin that, that policy is saying any board member can request it, it's gotta be on there.
Yes,
Yeah.
they say shall be,
Yeah,
by submitting the request
Completely
at least
disagree.
10 days before the meeting. Any item requested by a board member must be placed on the agenda. If the request is made less than 10 working days before the meeting, it may be held over to the next meeting because lack of required prior notice. The request is made less than 10 days before the meeting, the board chair may decide to include the item on the agenda of that meeting.
You run, that policy runs the risk of a school board being held hostage by one person.
Yeah.
Yes,
I've seen this with the city council, mostly it's the city council, I've never personally seen it at the school board, but. You get one person who has an axe to grind, and that person usually is that type of person who has all kinds of axes to grind, and they will sabotage agenda after agenda. And all it takes is it's on the agenda, so now I can talk about it for as long as I want, even if none of you, being other board members, want to engage on it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just now realizing my comment earlier, or my observation that it takes, I thought it was two, and I thought that's what it's.
yeah, it's not.
It's a majority in our fourth paragraph there.
Yeah.
Fourth paragraph, it's specifically said it's gotta be a majority of the board, which I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yes, if not on the agenda, then
Yeah.
it has to be.
Right,
The big thing for me about even raising it was, I didn't want to set our community members up for being able to say, well, it says I can get an item on the agenda. And then our return is, but it's always public comment. Is there something we can say that,
I think that there. I think, yeah, so if we feel we need to add a sentence or two, that what it should say, and maybe we go back, Michelle, maybe that's what your
Yeah.
sentence was, but it should say. Basically to the effect, it's the board's meeting, and you have to basically lobby members of the board to get it on the agenda.
Yeah.
No member of the public has the right to just say, because I'm requesting it, it should therefore be on an agenda, right? And so there's a couple ways to do that. One, three ways, we've already said. You
Yeah.
can reach out to either one of you and you say, oh, this is a hot topic, you're right, we should be talking about it, and the two of you put it on agenda. Or they do it in public comment, there's enough of us board members saying, this is a hot topic, sorry, Susan and Aaron disagreed, but there's three of us who say, put it on the agenda.
Yep.
Or we don't pick it up after public comment, or they don't wanna go to public comment, but they call three of us independently. And then one of us brings it up at a
Yep.
board meeting and we make the motion to get it on the
Yep.
agenda. So those are the three ways, and I think those are the only three ways
Yep.
that,
and that just adds the clarity.
Yeah.
If we're gonna,
Appreciate that.
if we're gonna leave, this in student or patron of the district by notifying the superintendent.
And the
Yeah,
board
let's
chair.
be
That's
clear.
what I was gonna ask, if we can add that.
Yeah,
And the
it
board
should
chair.
say and the board
Okay.
chair.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Or
or the board chair,
Yeah,
it should be either or, right, think about it like either or.
Yeah.
And then can we change that 1 week to 2 weeks?
yes,
Yeah, that would be good.
or 10
days.
days or whatever we do.
But yeah, I agree.
Because of the cadence of when we actually.
yeah.
It just leaves us scrambled.
No, I agree completely.
Well, that's good.
Especially when it says that. Somewhere else here, I think we used an amount of days and it was different than the 1 week, but maybe not. I don't think there is an issue. If we do wanna clarify determinations of what is added to the agenda. Line with board responsibilities and then referencing whatever the language is, I already forgot what those words were. They were really good words. I do think it makes sense to reference the board responsibilities. Because, as we know, we have had. Board meetings where people are attempting to force conversations by coming and giving public comment on something that's not under. The responsibilities of the board and might not be appropriate for the venue, which is why we have a public comment policy, obviously, but I think.
You wanna reread your thing, Michelle, because I need to hear it all before you.
Okay, and I've got some crossouts and. add, but should have cleaned this up. The criteria used to consider the request will be. Basically, whether or not the subject matter falls within the board's general powers listed in policy BBA. And then in BBA. It
Yeah,
It
just sorry, yeah.
refers to.
Yeah,
the
and then
board
items
powers.
regarding the day-to-day business of the district will be directed to the
Oh,
superintendent.
yeah, items regarding the day-to-day business of the district will be directed to the superintendent.
Sure. You said that as an email, and
It's,
The email that I sent
It
this
was-
packet in.
it's included
Oh,
in the,
Packet.
yeah, just this last paragraph here.
what's the problem?
Yeah,
The way them it's,
it does weird things. Sometimes the attachments are at the top of my email, and sometimes the attachments are at the bottom of my email.
I just
depending on
find that-
device I open it from.
I feel like this is gonna help. It's gonna make my job easier and Susan's job easier to just be able to say. Well, when she said, well, what's the criteria? And I didn't have an answer. Yeah, then I can say, oh, go read policy BDDC and BDA and, yeah.
except that last, items regarding the day-to-day business of the district will be directed to the superintendent and public comment.
Oh,
I would. use
Yeah,
limit-
straight out and public comment.
Because we,
oh, wait.
Oh,
Oh,
or
you're
the,
saying to add that?
no, it's in the email.
it was
You
in your
sent
word,
right here.
it was in your
I
word.
think instead of and
Oh,
public comment,
Okay,
you
I
could
didn't write
include
that
the
down.
policy. If you wanted to direct them to public comment policy.
okay.
Uh, But yes. Directed to the superintendent, and then if they want to come and give public comment, then. As long as they keep it in rules, then we're good. Alright,
And I think the last one we had. Let's work out
yes,
The last one, the
the,
last couple comments.
the last request that we had that ended up being public comment, and then Aaron and I met.
Yep.
And, and I think we've had good dialogue.
mhm. I tried to. Just be quiet, but then I had one good idea that I shared that I think.
Okay, you're done with this one?
Yes.
DEA. Was released. Last month, educational equity advisory committee optional.
What it's doing is it's just changing the language to acknowledge that it is a committee of the superintendent and not a committee of the board. That's kind of its basic premise.
So then then are we gonna need to, is there another one we need to delete that E? No, I think I'm thinking of the. Never mind, I think I'm thinking of the safety committee meeting.
Oh,
Or safety committee.
So. I'm looking for a strike through or a change here,
It's a new,
yeah,
okay,
so,
an entirely new one, but since we are required by law to have this committee, I do think we should.
oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely, but. But Susan, you were talking about making it, clarifying that it's a. There was a previous version where it made it come across as a. Committee of the board, and there's language in here now, that the committee of the city.
the original approved,
So we have approved this one.
no, we haven't.
Yeah, okay,
But the state originally set up equity committees as a board committee. And legislatively, they changed that this year to
superintendent.
the superintendent. And so instead of this coming out as a new policy that says it's about the board, it's a new policy, so we haven't adopted it yet at all, it's brand new.
So you're proposing it just as we're seeing it this document?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right,
Don't. think there were anything, there wasn't anything that we needed to answer anything at all. I do think one thing to. Keep in mind is, I believe from when I was looking through this earlier, and I didn't write this down to know where it was on here, because I didn't have a copy.
If it's, if what I'm thinking, you're thinking it's the last paragraph. About a member of the Educational Equity Advisory Committee will also serve on the school district budget.
Yes,
I am raising the question of the state to say, what happens if we have an equity advisory committee with no one wanting to be a part of the district budget committee?
yes, that was my concern.
Are we absolutely required, or must we offer and try to encourage? But if we don't, where does that leave us?
Yeah, that was my concern.
Well, yeah, and if hopefully you get an answer back, but the way I would. Do we have discretion for policy of how many we can have on the budget committee?
No, we have to have even numbers.
Right now, we've got 5 and 5, so we've got all 5 board members and 5 community.
But do we have discretion to add more to that? Is that just?
That I
policy?
don't know,
Yeah,
that I don't know. Well, budget committee is the next one.
okay, so, cause what I'm
Oh, yes,
thinking
that's
is,
where I saw it.
you could simply, we could simply say. To your one member of your special, equity advisory committee. That you're the liaison or the board budget, and whether they show up is their decision, but we provided that spot for them.
Yeah.
So that's what they're at, if you don't get a good answer from the
Okay.
state,
Okay,
right?
yeah, and that's kind of,
But the question is, can we, I mean, or do we have to reserve one of those 5 spots?
right,
For the advisory?
yeah, because the footnote says the
Yeah,
district
your
is not
answer's in our
required.
first one.
To add an educational equity advisory committee member to the budget committee until there is a non-board member vacancy on the budget committee.
Which we have.
So, which we have, and so it's still the question of, must we or may?
We must.
So,
And budget committee, the next one says must.
And no applicants is it?
No applicants.
Yeah, like, I have the action to reach out at least to the person who challenged me in the election, Karen, if she wanted to. I have reached out to.
It's right here. Must.
Are we okay on this one? CEA?
Yes.
Okay, okay,
There's
there's
a
a,
third.
okay. All right, EA. I sent this to Jennifer and she was okay with this, and she's available next door if we need to pull her in for, because we've got some.
yeah, I'm gonna ask the question, because if we've got somebody that
This is our language,
won't
right?
do it,
Yes, and the highlighted is,
that's OSBA's ad.
Oh, that is,
the subject.
okay.
This is highly recommended. That's their highly recommended.
Yeah, because that's, we've talked about it on a couple
That's
of
required by the
instances,
state.
especially for
Full
smaller,
policies.
especially for smaller districts. If you don't have a 20-member equity advisory committee, or, you know, if you've got a few members, what happens if you don't have enough to be able to meet that requirement? So the question has been raised. But the budget committee information in and of itself is pretty straightforward.
Yes. 5 and 5. And we have just 2 openings, right?
2.
Yep. Okay, no other changes, so.
I heard a question about the budget committee, and it has to be an equal number of community members and board members,
Yes.
so you can't add an extra
Okay,
for the equity person.
Thank you.
so this very language is what you whether. That needs to be must.
Yeah.
Or should,
Yeah, that's the piece of it. It says we're gonna try.
yeah.
We're gonna, you know, do what's right by us to be able to
Sorry,
make that happen.
sorry for one committee.
Yeah.
Okay,
So are you sending a communication to Spencer to find out at OSBA or?
I'm sending it to Spencer, I'm sending it to COSA, I'm sending it to OSBA. It's kind of like, let's blanket the waterfront,
Yeah,
to be able to see, just where people are.
okay.
Right, is this one okay? So much good.
Well, we need to get that one highlighted.
Yep.
But, yes.
And then, I guess. Has this committee been convened, or will it be convened before September 15th? Which is our legal required deadline, not the budget committee, the
Yes,
equity committee.
yes.
Okay.
Oh, this says districts with ADM over 10,000. Must
No.
convene. Districts with ADM of 10,000 or under,
Must convene
are not required to convene.
until
Until-
September
oh,
15th,
okay, yeah, we will
2025.
be.
This was passed in 2023.
No, we'll be good.
I only asked because that's a week from today.
Let me check my list here to see.
Okay, so Jennifer went through all of these family leave, sick leave. Sick time, policies.
So these highlights and strike throughs, these are the OSBA ones, not anything we changed, right?
Correct.
That's a weird little verb thing they decided to do, but all right. I love past tense, present tense. But it makes sense, because it would be, they have to have in the past done this, and then now they have to do this. So it actually does make sense, just not immediately to my brain. So for these. I feel out of my depth and understanding, so as long as they've been approved by the experts in the district.
Yeah, and
I say
we can pull Jennifer in here. On this, on family medical leave, the AR one. She wants these two words switched. Him lower, you see the little.
Yeah, that seems like it might be a grammar of.
Let's see what else on this. Can we delete this? No longer applies to child. Simply.
Yes, because those are optional.
Oh, yes, they have brackets.
Yeah, so just delete all three of those brackets, I think is the recommendation.
So.
Probably why they were in brackets.
And then on page 6, she highlighted on what we're using currently, the rolling 12-month grade measure backwards to for FMLA. On page 7, she wants this out.
And keep the brackets on page 8 under adjournment.
No, it's okay.
So I'm familiar with FMLA and OFLA of Oregon, right? Oh, okay, the paid family, let's see, the paid family, and that's federal, the paid family.
No, that one is Oregon.
And that's-
I just changed the name of it, paid family, instead of it being family, I believe, because it used to not
I
be
thought-
paid, and now it is.
I thought that was our Oregon leave that they just put into place. Not
Well, no, it's not federal, they
Oh,
just
okay.
changed the name because it's paid now versus unpaid. It used to just be that you were eligible for leave. and
Oh,
now it's not.
okay.
This is it's the insurance, okay. all right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check on your equity committee here, because we may not be probably.
I don't know if convened and having their first meeting are the same thing.
Well, because we've had meetings before, and we had a meeting last spring,
Yeah,
and so.
And
That,
I think
we've had the committees.
my interpretation of that means that we're in the clear.
Yeah, and that's my thought, I just looked to see when our dates were.
Is there one of the board members who's going to be on?
We are not allowed to be members of that.
Boy, okay, because you're part of the budget committee.
So it's no longer, it's not a board committee anymore.
Yes, but the board is not allowed to be involved in that
Okay.
committee anymore.
Alright, and that part.
Yeah,
Well, no, I know that it's no longer a committee of the board,
But the board is not allowed to be a member of the committee
Okay.
either, yeah,
But you're part of the budget committee.
yes.
Go right
Okay, I do see one. Added component on page 11 under the GCDA. Shall not count against the eligible instructional employees leave entitlement, however, employee may use paid leave or go. Into unpaid status. Oh, I see, instructional employees FMLA, OFLA leave entitlement, however, employee may use paid leave or go into. Unpaid status, okay. We are keeping this bracketed language and striking the next sentence. I'm just checking for brackets as always. And then, just for your education, anything in fancy brackets, as we like to call them. Does not get published in the final policy, it's just for our information, and then when OSBA publishes it, they take out everything in the fancy bracket.
And they fix the
fancy brand.
Nations.
That's- Okay, braces, I think that they're technically called.
What braces are the square ones? Maybe
Those are
the
brackets.
fancy bracket. Okay, in braces, they remove all of that on our behalf, that's just for our understanding as we read through these policies. And then they fix all the weird numbering issues, cause there are always weird numbering issues. This one's an excellent
1, 6,
example on the
7,
last
8,
page, where it goes 1, 27,
Yeah.
28, 29. They'll fix all of that for us. It's just because when you go in and edit, everything breaks. Okay, I don't see any other brackets in this one. To
look for them. And then for the sick time policy, Jennifer wants all of the bracketed language fixed, kept, or she would have crossed it out, but I was gonna do that for today on this one.
I have a question about this one anyway.
Okay, the sick time,
Yeah,
okay.
Because
Special
we-
ed.
well, and it might not hurt.
Okay,
I had to go verify that according to AI. Yeah, brackets are the square ones and braces are the wooden ones.
okay,
Because I didn't want to say that,
Braces.
when I thought I had it right and then turned out, but no, I was.
yes, that makes sense.
My
Brackets are the
question
square
about
ones.
this one is the GCBDD is sick time. And it says it's non-permanent employees. And then the next policy we're looking at says sick leave. Dash personal illness and injury leave. When I look at sick time, I'm thinking sick time for everybody. Can we retitle?
that versus this.
It's kind of like,
Sick
Well-
time was the additional Oregon sick time that we had to add for everybody.
right,
And sick leave is the accrued leave that we give as a permanent employee. So the sick time, really, we only use it for the substitutes and coaches and pool staff.
can we title that some way?
That's
Or,
different than sick time,
yeah, I mean, it just kind of, or even just put,
something after it.
Yeah,
something,
yeah, sick time for
you know, sick
non-permanent
leave
staff,
dash,
there you go, that's, there's the phrase right there.
non-permanent employees
Yeah,
or something
that's
like
fine.
that.
Yeah.
It just was one of those things that when I looked at it, I'm going, okay, I see sick time and I see sick leave, and then I saw your notes, and that's the only thing that got me to a place of being able to say, oh, it's for different people.
Yeah,
Um,
it came from a House bill or a Senate bill, and that was, it might even say in the footnotes, I can't remember what it was, but,
Or is 316.
Yep.
yeah. And that's why we had to put that in there.
No, I agree, I mean, the information in it is sound.
Okay.
It was just that when I looked at that, I thought,
Yeah.
maybe I'm the only board.
No, I'm fine with renaming it.
Then as I look at it,
Refer to it to outside staff, they then have a better idea of what it's for, that's fine with me.
Okay, so it's sick time dash.
but I used the word non-permanent employees, because that was the word you used.
And you did want all this bracketed language that's not crossed out, right?
I think that's
Okay.
fine. It
And
gives
this-
us some parameters to follow if there is disciplinary.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
yeah, this is the one we just talked about today. Yeah.
Do we have the sick leave one in the back of
It's the next.
It's the next one.
GC.
Yeah, and it's, the
So-
letters look almost exactly the same, so it's easy to think that you're in the same one.
first one? So then this one. Sick leave dash personal illness and injury leave. Then do we want to add to this, another dash for
Permanent
permanent
employees.
employees? Just to
And
be the opposite of the previous one.
just a question mark for me. Are teachers who were in that probationary period, they're still considered a permanent employee, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and they know that, right?
They get them.
Okay.
They get all the benefits other than.
I just wanted to make sure that they knew that, so it wasn't like, oh, I don't get it. Okay, yeah, okay. Okay. That works for me, just to get that clarification right at the glance. We're scrolling through the far too many,
Headers that look pretty close to
all
the
the same letters. Okay. So then the next one is IGBAB slash JO, which is an AR. We're done with you, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, this one I ran by Kelsey and she said, I don't see any issues with it, and it just really. Oh, I'm sorry. IG.
What's the name?
Education.
Educational
We're skipping, we're calling done facility one.
Yes, there aren't any other changes other than they're updating some,
There's a lot of changes. Yes,
So-
thank you for Jennifer.
adding some clarity around who is acceptable to provide things and removing gendered language and updating the law reference.
What's wrong? I'm sorry, sorry.
The sick leave one,
Yeah.
those are the
Okay,
updates.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, everybody's
But-
all right.
Well, just, so were we gonna add the permanent employees to the
Yes.
sick leave one?
Personal illness and injury leave dash permanent employees.
Or just for permanent employees.
Yeah.
And then on to the next one, which is
ABAP.
education for ABAB, yeah, JOAR. That's how I read things, honestly, in my head every single time. I'm seeing very minor grammar changes on the first page. Also, this is an AR, so we are not actually required to review it. Unless we would like to.
I like having these in the board packet and just kind of lumped together, voted on, just for transparency.
Oh, it's context.
Yes, I'm seeing almost entirely only grammar changes. And a fun little weird page break that would give us. Oh, and OER reference change, or ORS reference change. That's true.
Uh, One dot C. It doesn't do very well given. I think his her records relating. So. Page 111.
Oh, last. What is that?
The first page.
First page of IGB. Records relating to an individual in attendance at the district who is employed as a result of status as a student. Can we just say who is employed as a result of being a student? Result of status as a student. A lot of word, like, it's a mouthful, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I think changing all that to just.
I like you, can you
Yep,
go for that
Yep.
one?
it's so reading all again. Records relating to an individual in attendance at the district who is employed as a result of being a student.
But were they employed as a result of being a student?
Well, it's because
Such
that's,
a weird, yeah, it's an entirely weird sentence.
well, I mean. Yeah, I assume this is jobs that they get to have because they're a student, and that we
Yeah.
wouldn't employ anyone else in those jobs, I don't know what those would be, but. I mean, it's saying the same thing that's there, so if we wanna question the policy, that's one thing, but it's way better, it's way better way to say it than what's there. It was fine when you had his status as a student, but when you take that out, it doesn't read very well.
Right.
Or the individual's status as a student. Cause that's how they do it under E, it should to be individual.
Yeah, that's fine. too.
The individual's. Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine with me, it's easier. That it is slasher, make it individuals.
Yeah,
Possessive. And I mean. Records relating to an individual in attendance at the district who is employed as a result of. Their individual status as students, so it's still, that's still a mouthful.
it is a mouthful.
Yeah, as a result of being a student, but what is that? I mean, who would that be? What jobs do we have that someone's employed because they're a student? I mean, the pool, we hire people off the street.
able to now, under a change in the law, actually hire students as interns. To do facilities updates and things like that, so I think it might just be in preparation for that, but this looks like it's language of. The only change was. To
Yeah.
remove the gender
Yeah.
reference,
Yeah.
and this has been in policy since 2013.
And my mind went to like Amber students. Who are continuing on grades 13, 14, 15. The
Oh, the transition. students?
transition students, yeah,
Yeah, and,
I don't know if that's referring to.
but usually, I mean, they're not employed, they're not district employees. Typically,
Yeah.
if they're, I mean, we've had a couple that he's had work in the greenhouse over summers. We've had a couple and they're not IEP necessarily that have worked for technology. In the
But these
summer.
would be the kind of things I would prefer
Yeah.
to, is where they have these jobs because they're
Yeah.
students.
Right.
Yeah. So this spat, this situation exists, it's just how do you best phrase it, and it's either the result of being a student or. Result of individual status as a student, either
Right.
way, being a student seems a little cleaner, it's not quite a mouthful, but either way. I would think about that.
I would agree.
Revision, you no longer keep the place of birth. There is question.
Where is, and
Oh, is it on the, at the bottom of the first page?
See page 111.
Well, there's a spot in synergy to add that.
I believe that we do not record students' place of birth. Anymore.
So is it against the law?
I think it is. It's a safety measure in Oregon.
Oh, okay.
That would be a good question for LDL.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll let the ESD know.
I think that might be what it is.
I would have taken that.
That's synergy.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth asking
It
if that's the reason, but I think it's because of
Must or may,
protected,
yeah,
yeah. Because if we don't have it as a record, nobody can ask for it as a record. Um. Looks like a lot of these are changing the reference to the student or parent. Making it clear that students are allowed to ask for this as well. Oh, because before the term. Well, no, that should be bad. Oh, not really. It's like anytime it's a they, it seems that they've called it out specifically that they references the student or parents. Not everything. That's an interesting. I think it's trying to go 80 miles an hour. Alright,
There's a lot of stuff around education records.
yes. Most of them, and most of it seem very weird to that to me, but.
And the disclosure statement is a part of that policy. Or is that as a part of that AR?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
I think specifically if there's a form that has to be filled out, then this disclosure has to be included.
Yep.
So it might as well just be.
Okay, and then we've got an instructional material with delete and an instructional material proposed.
And I didn't include that, I did print off the. The policy that would be deleted, but it would be our current policy. That would be deleted and then.
Pages, that's in here.
Did I included the deleted? Oh, okay, oh,
I think there's a cross.
so it's not in the print.
Oh, we're not printing.
Yes, I did.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Is there anything you can recall off the top of your head about? The rationale for delete. And a new proposal.
Versus just an editing.
It just seemed, there's. I really don't know, I'm just thinking that there were so many changes that,
It's just easier to, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's hard to read when it's nothing but a mashup of the two.
Yep.
So.
It looks like. A lot of language change, so it makes sense. Then. What does the board believe? I personally would like to keep the first set of brackets. Especially as we kind of discuss the language of. Global society and some of our goal setting. Makes sense to keep it here as well.
I would agree.
Actually. Think all of the brackets on the first page should be included. Because a lot of those are in relation to the. Yeah, on book bans, that was passed.
There's a ban on book bans.
Yeah, Oregon State Legislature made it illegal to ban books in Oregon for these specific reasons.
This
Discrimination.
is the 118 or you're still looking at?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what this, that's, okay.
Yeah, the second paragraph is regarding the new law, but kind of
Yeah,
stresses it out more.
I'm reading now 2-3 times to make sure I understand them, and yeah, there's no way those aren't running afoul of what our current president's trying to do.
The next set of brackets is under core instructional materials.
I would leave in or designate.
It's like to give you a designee.
Do you have the policies open on your phone? Our
The
policies
current
page?
one,
Mhm.
well, I have our current. IA open.
Do we have?
I like
Do
your-
we have any ARs? Under the current. I.
Yes.
Okay,
We have. AR1 and AR2.
okay, so there's 6 suggested ARs that I did not include that we will look at next time.
I see,
So,
some of it is supplemental, but I'll bring it up with administrators, but I'll also. Talk with Rachel Baker,
yeah,
our library media person, to be able to. Get some insights there.
and I worked on the reconsideration committee in Harrisburg, so if you
Oh,
wanna put together a reconsideration committee, I can do that.
And I'm sorry, what is the, so there's right above 3 paragraphs above definitions, there's a bracket. What are the brackets for this? This policy is not intended to cover classroom activities.
Means we could choose to just cross those off. Cross those out and not include it in policies.
Okay,
Yeah,
Option, it's optional.
it's,
I would leave it.
I would leave it in personally because I think it explains that there's a difference between instructional materials and classroom activities. As far as like procedures go. My question, and I know that it's what's supposed to happen, but I also know that it might not always happen. Under core instructional materials is the 7-year cycle bracket. Each core instructional program and its instructional materials will be reviewed on a 7-year cycle. We keep that in or not.
Where are you at?
Under core instructional materials. It's the,
Which I kept designated
Second.
students, or
it's the second bracket below that. It's in the next paragraph down.
we try and hold to that 7-year cycle, but there are times when financially we can't.
But it
We
was
still,
reviewed.
we still do review,
So we probably could keep.
yeah,
that in.
we can keep it there.
And then the next bracket after that specifies the adoption of textbooks for American history and government. I don't know if that's because the ORS specifies American history and government, they don't actually explain. what it's specified.
I want to dig into the statute to see why. I just haven't done it, so.
You don't have them all memorized?
Surprise.
726 years, it's also not included in the legal, oh, it is, I see it now.
Yeah, it is specific to American history and government.
Interesting.
It's just specifically where Donald Trump is trying to rewrite history.
I like, yeah, ending. Show me.
If the statute is specific to American history and government, why would they make that option?
Well, you don't need to include the language, it's all.
Yeah.
words.
Yeah.
So leaving it in or out doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
You might as well leave it in, because that way you don't have to look at what ORS is referring to.
Right.
And, I'm sorry, the previous paragraph where students was bracketed, what was the,
Oh, I think they need to be a part of it.
Yeah. And then. The last bracket of that. Paragraph that we were just discussing, all requests for reconsideration of core instructional materials may be considered under administrative regulation IIAAR 2, reconsideration of core instructional materials. I think that will depend on your recommendations about which
Which
ARs
ARs.
to include.
That'd be great.
So, we can just say. That you will determine, in my notes, I'm just gonna say that you will determine whether to include this. And then when we see those ARs in the packet, I'll read.
So we're keeping that language for now?
We wanna find out what ARs we're gonna select before we decide whether or not we're gonna keep it.
Oh, okay. So then I'll just hold off on
Just-
keeping this in the.
I would just leave the bracketed form in there.
Right, and I would say the same thing would be true with
For the
that
next
last paragraph.
bracket, yeah. Both of those brackets at the bottom, and then. Oh my goodness.
Well, if we keep the language, it refers to the current AR. Which we have in place, right? We have an AR2 in place.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna review, if we're gonna review those six to be able to make a determination about what we keep.
Okay,
And then the next one is referring to AR 6, which we don't have yet. And maybe we won't.
okay, so I think we can hold this one over until. The next policy committee meeting, so they can all be done at once.
That makes sense.
All supplemental instructional materials to be selected by teachers. Principals, librarians, and or others as determined appropriate.
Which may not be through any formal selection procedure.
I don't just leave that out,
I'm okay with the first one and then leave the second, yeah,
Which
It-
may not be through any formal selection procedure.
I think it's a continued thought of as determined appropriate.
Yeah, so they're saying it can be more of an informal, is the one, I see it.
And then on may also involve suit. Yeah, all of them, last three were all.
they are dependent.
Okay, sorry about that. No, it's an important one. It's just a lot of ARs.
Yeah, okay,
So if you have time to do that before Thursday, your infinite time for, is
We'll
it this
see.
week?
Yes,
Yeah,
this
it is
week.
this week.
Maybe.
Okay, and now,
I think it'd be worth just waiting until our next meeting, so we can review all of them together, okay. JOA,
We're gonna have people that think they wanna take students' photograph out of the record. By the time they get to high school, I think they're pulling them out, so if this is a part of the need to keep.
Oh, are
we're
you
gonna have to
talking
go
about
back.
their Cume file?
Directory
Or that,
information,
yeah, the little stickers that they were putting on
yeah.
that?
If that's the same as directory,
In a student's education record.
Major field of study? School. Sorry.
these are just suggestions.
Required. This policy is required.
But I mean, if this list of. Um. Directory information may be released through appropriate procedures and includes.
Yeah, but they did remove to the public. It no longer says may be released to the public.
Yeah.
So are you releasing it to?
Right?
You might release it internally to your parents.
Okay. Or I guess like a police agency
Yeah,
or juvenile detention or social work or, yeah. I guess.
Military recruiters.
What's degrees?
yeah,
I would, next time, what degree for not issuing degrees?
Unless it's saying they, honor diploma, valedictorian diploma.
because we have to maintain records of the student.
Yeah, but that's a diploma. I would change degrees to diplomas then, right? We don't issue degrees.
Right.
This is saying that you have to give public notice annually. About what this information includes. Which I'm sure I've signed off on every year without you.
Per sentence. The district will give annual public notice to parents of students in attendance and students 18 years of age or emancipated.
Yeah.
Of
that's
what?
crazy.
Huh? Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. We have to give annual notice. You want, I would say you combine those first two sentences. The district will give annual public notice, parents of students in attendance at 18 years or emancipated. Of information considered to be directory information.
Yep.
Of the types or whatever, yeah, I mean. To have that as two separate sentences, that first sentence is maybe.
Means nothing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You have to give public notice of what? So, yeah. Yeah, you just lose, the notice shall identify the types of, just say, or is of information considered to be there. No, all right, but now I realize that that second sentence goes on for 4 more lines. So maybe, maybe you just need to rework this whole paragraph. That would make, I mean, it's already way too long of a sentence, and you add the part I just said, it makes it unreadable. Yeah.
I would just, the district will give annual public notice of. directory information or directory information procedure. And then leave that big giant sentence.
We could also put in a footnote. That says. Names, addresses, and telephone numbers to military recruits. I mean, that piece of that people do a footnote if we needed to.
Yes.
Shall not disclose personal information before the enforcement of federal immigration laws. Oh, and then this is the AR, the next one is the AR. That goes along with the multi-layered IGBAB JOAR.
This one
This is the JIGBABAR.
This one is geared towards students, so it's a J policy, so it's in the student section, whereas. The I policy is, what's the I policy?
Instruction.
Instruction. It's basically, it's probably the same exact policy.
Let's see.
It is the same exact policy, it is renamed. It's a cross-reference.
Same with those policies we looked at, where one is geared towards staff and one is geared towards students, but
There's something slightly different, but I don't know what, because unless it's just how it printed. These are identical, but this one has AGHI and this one has AGH on the first page, excuse me. They're identical. It's for cross reference.
I love it. Or something.
Oh, that's it. Double checking. That's what it said.
Just.
Where's? Where do we go from here?
Finished,
What?
I'm
just looking,
You shouldn't have.
What, we're not.
the only one we didn't get through on this list were the 6 ARs for the IA. And then the LBEA denial for virtual public charter school student enrollment, which is conditionally required. We don't have that. printed here.
And I don't need,
Which one?
I haven't even looked at that, the LBEA denial for virtual public charter school student enrollment. I will look at that, but I don't think we're gonna make any changes to that.
Okay.
Because, well. We're not denying any
Is
students.
that the 3%?
Yeah,
Okay.
So, so there's obviously some edits, there's those 6 AR things, you expect them to bring these to the board, not this week, and then I would assume.
well, that's,
All of them except for the
That's-
IIA be in our board packet this week.
yeah. Which I didn't put in tonight.
And we have an option to approve, but we don't. Are required to approve them at this point.
If, yeah, people want more time to process.
Yep.
them.
Absolutely.
So I did put them in the format that you wanted, where they're on the consent agenda, so that's gonna be good.
Oh, okay, I didn't.
And then if there is any questions to go on the consent agenda, we just pull them out into the regular meeting.
Okay, so, okay, that's a big change, and that's copacetic to have policies in a.
It's actually what they recommend, yeah,
Wow,
except in cases where they're likely to cause discussion and then they go into the regular agenda. I don't think there are any here,
Well, again, people can.
that would be.
Well, that will greatly expedite things if people just,
You know, if there are ever any that we
There-
anticipate in this committee, will want a lot of discussion, and we would put those just into the agenda.
but there were several that you were waiting to hear back from the state, and then there was some language changes,
Yeah.
and they were gonna be.
Yeah, if those ones aren't ready, we'll pull them and say,
Okay.
we won't approve them.
Okay. So you'll probably put it as a packet, but then pull them off.
Well, I won't put IAA in.
Yeah, sure,
um,
sure, sure,
I'll
sure,
wait-
sure.
And maybe I'll wait, until Wednesday to put in, after you get the final word from the admin on electronic devices and fix. IKEA, I'll put those,
So,
you
yeah,
know,
so that's why I'm gonna have a beef is. I'm not working anymore and I still won't have time to get to it
Right.
between Wednesday and Thursday, so soon, yeah, especially now that they're on the consent agenda, we don't force time to talk about them. If we don't have them by tonight, I would say Monday night, then I'd say you gotta wait a month.
Yep.
That would be my,
That's,
unless it's something very, very simple, change, but anyway. I'm just,
that's a good point.
yeah, cause it's.
we're gonna get
it is
30-page board packet, and then if you add
Yep.
stuff to the last minute, we gotta go forward and figure out what got added and what, yeah, so.
So we'll talk about which ones we can,
I
that we'll do.
have a little PTSD from my former time, we would get board packets 2 days before, there were a couple that we got that were 500 pages long.
Yeah.
And I think there was one that was even 600 pages, and I'm like, I don't read a 600-page book in 6 months,
Yeah,
this dense material, I'm not gonna get through it in 2 hours after working all day,
I
so.
agree with you.
I might want to change the policy committee cadence to be like the same week as we set the agenda then.
Well, yeah, this was kind of a last minute.
Yeah.
We would try to get some things on.
No, this was great.
and Try to get the board packets out by Fridays, the Friday before. the
Yeah,
meetings.
and that's great. Yeah, no,
That's normal.
yeah, I understand that. And today is, that's fine, that's workable. I mean, Friday's gonna be better, of course, but you were talking about throwing a few things in on Wednesday. I just.
Yeah,
that's the way
I would agree with you.
I would say the only one that we need to get in the packet is the personal electronic.
I
devices
agree.
One, and it's
Yeah, and
only,
I'm just I'm gonna make the edits to that
Okay.
now.
Okay,
And because,
it's
and
only 3 pages.
I would suggest that we put it in. And if the administrators blow up on it tomorrow, then we'll pull it out.
Okay, so put it in.
Well, or, I'm fine, you bring paper copies for all of us to talk about live for that one thing. You just can't do that. for-
No, I would agree.
You're right.
and we're holding one of these for our next work session. This is minor changes, that there are a couple that could go in without it, that are like one pagers that I think would be okay.
Yeah.
And then if anybody said I didn't have time to read through them, we will just
Yeah, we can-
postpone
Sure.
them
Or
for
they
the
can-
next
yeah.
meeting. If we have somebody
Great.
say they are not ever
Yeah,
going to.
we're
read
well
them,
within
that's
our
one-
time.
Then, yes, then they could abstain if they really, whatever.
Yeah. That's another thing. if that-
Terrible behavior, yes.
Okay,
Okay, you could recycle that. So, yeah.
Okay,
And thank you for the call. Yeah, and I gotta call IT and figure out how to live. I'm trying to set up. In Outlook, you can link your Gmail account
Mhm.
and I was telling her that before you
Yeah.
joined, and it says your administrator has to give you permission to do this, but. I use Outlook and I have my personal email, I have. Well, Community Services, which I'm on the board for,
yeah,